There are moments when everything around you feels charged, not with adrenaline, but with a strange, almost sacred awareness, a subtle pressure behind your thoughts, a sense that something more is present, watching from just beyond the veil of the ordinary. Maybe it's when you walk into a room and feel something off, though no one has said a word. Or maybe it's when someone stares at you from behind, and you know before even turning. This isn't just intuition, it's the beginning of recognizing the energy field, the invisible architecture that surrounds and shapes all experience. Terence McKenna, who spent his life exploring altered states and ancient knowledge systems, believed that reality is not a static material fact, it's a language, a morphing pattern that responds to awareness itself. In his view, the human mind isn't just a passive observer, but an active participant, even a manipulator of this hidden structure. And if you've lived long enough to see cycles repeat, people reveal their patterns and unseen forces steer events. You've probably already touched this field without knowing what it was. So, what does it mean to mentally control the energy field? And what does the so-called 33rd degree Masonic knowledge have to do with it? Let's be clear, this isn't about conspiracy, it's about comprehension. The deeper initiatory teachings, whether Masonic, Hermetic, or indigenous, don't promise magical powers. What they offer is clarity, the ability to perceive underlying dynamics, energetic flows, symbols, and archetypes that most people live inside of blindly. The 33rd degree, in esoteric tradition, is not a rank of dominance. It's a metaphor for full circle return, wisdom born not from youth but from tested experience, a mind seasoned by doubt, cracked open by wonder. For people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, this message hits differently. You've seen behind the curtain of life. You know that the physical world doesn't explain everything. The tension in a family, the vibe in a hospital room, the way some people drain you while others lift you just by being near. It's not fantasy, it's frequency, and it can be consciously navigated. McKenna often said, "Culture is not your friend." It's a strong claim, but what he meant is this: the systems we're born into train us to ignore the very real signals of the subtle world. But what if the truth is this, that you were always connected to the field, and you just forgot how to listen? It's not a metaphor, your thoughts are frequencies. Each idea, judgment, intention, or emotion emits a subtle pattern, shaping not only how you perceive the world, but how the world responds to you. This isn't just mystical talk. Even mainstream science now acknowledges the electromagnetic resonance of the heart and brain, but Terence McKenna pushed us to go further. He believed that language itself, thought encoded in words, was the ultimate tool for shaping reality. In his words, the world is made of words. And if you know the words the world is made of, you can make of it what you wish. This insight echoes ancient esoteric traditions. The 33rd degree initiates in Masonic teachings didn't control reality through force. They studied symbols, archetypes, and vibration. They understood that silence, posture, and the framing of questions could alter the outcome of a room, not by persuasion, but by energetic influence. This is what McKenna and ancient schools alike referred to as mental tuning of the field. Let's bring it down to something real. You walk into a room filled with tension. You feel it in your chest before anyone speaks. Without a word, your thoughts begin racing. Something's wrong. And just like that, your nervous system sinks to the field. Your body reacts. But here's the deeper truth. Your reaction contributes to the field as well. You're not just receiving energy, you're broadcasting it. So what happens when we reverse this? When we deliberately think thoughts of stillness, clarity, or even love, even when the field around us is chaotic, McKenna believed that we can reprogram our inner language, the silent narrator that shapes our view of the world, that this internal narration, when cleaned of fear, distortion, and cultural programming, becomes an instrument of precise influence. Not to manipulate others, but to align ourselves more honestly with the hidden architecture of life. If you've reached middle age, you've likely witnessed how beliefs shape outcomes. People who expect betrayal often find it. Those who expect connection tend to attract it. It's not coincidence, it's coherence. Mental control of the energy field is not domination. It's awareness and participation. It's the learned ability to recognize when your mind is reacting unconsciously and instead to offer a new vibration into the moment, like a tuning fork that reminds the orchestra of its true pitch. You've had this power all along. Now it's time to remember how to use it. Terence McKenna is most famously associated with psychedelics, psilocybin, DMT, ayahuasca. But beneath the kaleidoscopic visuals and shamanic journeys was something much more enduring, a philosophy of perception. Psychedelics weren't just chemical trips. They were tools that ripped open the veil of ordinary consciousness to reveal the deeper energy field beneath. But McKenna's greatest teaching wasn't to take substances. It was to realize that the real shift happens in how we look, not what we take. For those in their midlife or later years, the appeal of mind-altering experiences might dim, replaced by a deeper yearning, clarity, peace, meaning. And here's where McKenna's wisdom matures with us, because the altered state isn't the goal, it's the lens. And that lens can be cultivated without a substance. Through breath, through silence, through presence, through the radical act of paying attention differently. The energy field, the fabric of subtle reality, doesn't only open through visions. It opens through subtle noticing. When a conversation suddenly feels off, when your intuition warns you without cause, or when you experience a synchronicity so uncanny it defies logic. These moments are psychedelic in the truest sense. They break the illusion of separateness and remind you that everything is connected. McKenna urged us to stop assuming that consensus reality, what everyone agrees is normal, is true. He saw it as a social hallucination, one that suppresses the personal, the mystical, the unprovable. But for those who've lived enough life, this idea doesn't sound so radical. You've seen how people lie to themselves, how media shapes perception, how systems fail the soul. You already know that truth often whispers in private, not from the pulpit. The 33rd degree perspective invites us to live as initiates in our own daily lives, not waiting for a ritual or a teacher, but recognizing that the ordinary is hiding the extraordinary. The conversation with a friend can be a transmission, a walk in nature can be a revelation. A dream can be a message from the deeper layers of mind. What psychedelics show in vivid detail, life also teaches in quiet repetition, that you are not just a person moving through a world. You are a field interacting with a field, and every moment is an opportunity to tune that interaction, to adjust your mental frequency and witness the shift it creates. You don't need to break through. You just need to listen differently. There's a hidden contract we make with reality, one that goes mostly unnoticed. We believe something, and then we start to see it, not the other way around. This is more than optimism or pessimism. It's architecture. Terence McKenna often spoke of belief as a tool, not a truth. He said, belief is a form of self-hypnosis, a powerful one. If you believe the world is dangerous, your mind and your nervous system will filter every experience through that frame. If you believe you are unworthy, you'll subconsciously arrange your life to reflect that conviction. This is not magical thinking, it's neurological and energetic patterning. And when carried over decades, beliefs become the scaffolding of your emotional and even physical life. Chronic tension, gut feelings, joyless routines, all of these can stem from internal architectures built long ago. McKenna didn't encourage blind faith. He called for a radical skepticism of inherited thought, of ideas we carry not because they're true, but because they're familiar. The 33rd degree esoteric mindset views belief as a construct, a structure that can either imprison or liberate. This echoes teachings found in Eastern philosophy, Western mysticism, and indigenous cosmology. They all point to a hidden layer, belief as blueprint, thought as architect, not just of what happens outside us, but of what we're able to perceive. If your belief is that mystical experiences are nonsense, then even when one happens to you, your mind will edit it out. You'll rationalize it, ignore it, or laugh it off. But if you allow for the possibility of the field, of subtle energy, synchronicity, intention, your reality begins to expand. Many people in midlife find themselves in a quiet crisis, Not because something is wrong, but because everything feels flat. Routine, predictable, the spark has dimmed. This often stems from outdated inner architecture, beliefs installed decades ago that no longer serve the person you've become. The energy field doesn't respond to who you were, it responds to who you are being now. And this is where transformation begins, not by chasing new beliefs, but by becoming aware of the ones already running the show. McKenna believed we could become our own psychonauts, inner explorers, not of drugs, but of mind. He said, "You are the center of the mandala," meaning the map isn't outside of you, it's you. If belief is architecture, then awareness is the renovation. The question becomes, are you living in a temple of clarity or in a prison built by fear? Silence is not emptiness, it's interface. We've been trained to think of silence as the absence of something. No sound, no words, no content. But in the teachings of Terence McKenna and in the initiatory knowledge of the esoteric traditions, silence is not a void. It is a tool, a technology, a gateway. The noise of modern life, whether external or internal, prevents access to the field not because the field disappears, but because we can't hear it. Silence is the tuning mechanism. It reopens the channel. Think of it this way. A radio can't pick up a frequency if it's set to static. Your nervous system, your mind, your emotional state, they all function like a radio dial. And silence, real silence, reorients that dial toward coherence. The Masonic initiatory path often began with silence, not as punishment, but as preparation. One had to still the inherited stories, the reactive mind, the internal chatter, to hear the deeper truth. And for McKenna, silence was not just preparation for the psychedelic journey, it was the point of it. To quiet the ego enough so that the field could speak. Here's the paradox. The more mature we become, the more we realize how little can be truly said with words. We begin to sense that the most powerful experiences, death, love, insight, loss, don't live in language. They live in presence. And this is where silence becomes sacred. For people in midlife, this truth often lands with gravity. After years of talking, proving, persuading, performing, silence becomes a relief, a place of return. And beyond that, it becomes a method. McKenna believed that awareness deepens in proportion to the silence we're willing to sit in, that the energy field begins to respond once we stop trying to manipulate it. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming still enough to sense the shape of what's already moving. And when you practice this, not just occasionally but regularly, something profound happens. You begin to feel guidance without instructions. You begin to sense when to speak and when to hold, when to act and when to observe. This is energetic intelligence, field awareness. A kind of mystical fluency that arises not from learning something new, but from subtracting the noise. You don't have to seek the field, it's already here. You just have to lower your volume and listen. We've all felt it, that strange exhaustion after spending time with certain people. They didn't yell, they didn't argue. But somehow you leave feeling drained, smaller, slightly off-center. On the flip side, there are people who leave you feeling more whole, more present, more you. What's happening here isn't imaginary. It's the resonance, or dissonance, of energy fields. Terence McKenna believed that human beings are embedded in layers of interwoven frequencies. Not just physical beings, but nodes of consciousness emitting emotional and mental vibrations. We are constantly broadcasting, whether we know it or not. And just like musical notes, some frequencies harmonize and some create static. The term energy vampire may sound exaggerated, but energetically, it's quite accurate. When someone is in deep, unconscious pain, unresolved trauma, or heavy judgment, they often unconsciously pull energy from others to regulate themselves. This isn't always malicious, it's habitual. This concept echoes through esoteric and Masonic teachings as well. The initiated are taught to be vigilant not only of the visible actions of others, but of their vibration. Is the person's presence calming or agitating? Do their words match their energy? Do you feel more aligned or more confused after an interaction? These are subtle diagnostics that many older adults, through lived experience, become naturally attuned to. The problem is that most of us override these signals. We explain them away. Maybe I'm just tired. I shouldn't judge. Or they mean well. But the energy field doesn't lie. It communicates through feeling, not reasoning. And the emotional truth of an interaction is often far more accurate than the story we tell about it. McKenna warned that we're taught to suppress this innate sensing. Culture conditions us to prioritize politeness over perception. But when you honor the felt truth, when you trust your body's response, your energy's contraction or expansion, you begin to take back control of how your field is shaped. Protecting your energy doesn't require aggression or withdrawal. It requires discernment, a willingness to honor how you feel even when it's inconvenient, and this discernment becomes more important as you age. Why? Because time and energy are no longer unlimited. The price of false connection grows higher. The body grows less tolerant of misalignment. Field awareness means knowing that emotional energy is contagious and treating your own presence as sacred. Not everyone gets access, not everyone should. Some energies bless, others burden. Your job is to know which is which and act accordingly. Have you ever noticed how a specific number keeps showing up, or how a phrase someone says in passing echoes something you were just thinking? These are not random. They are signatures, gentle nudges from the energy field, speaking in the only language it knows, symbol and synchronicity. Terence McKenna often spoke of the universe as a kind of language, not one made of grammar and vocabulary, but of resonance and metaphor. In his view, synchronicity is not mere coincidence, it is communication. The field speaks through patterns, timing, symbols and sensations, but only if we're quiet and brave and enough to notice. The 33rd degree initiatory systems, including the Masonic lineage, have long honored this symbolic language. Ritual, architecture, geometry, colors, all are used not for decoration, but as vibrational keys. The deeper idea is that symbols bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the subconscious, to the energetic body. This is not superstition, it's pattern recognition. It's the ability to see what most ignore. In midlife, synchronicities often become more frequent, not because the universe suddenly starts talking, but because you've slowed down enough to hear it. Many people report strange coincidences during major life transitions, career endings, divorces, spiritual awakenings. It's as if the veil thins, but McKenna would argue the veil is always thin. We just stop paying attention. This awareness isn't about superstition or magical thinking. It's about engaging with reality on a more poetic level, where you allow beauty, meaning, and mystery to return. Symbols help reintroduce reverence to a world flattened by logic. A butterfly at a funeral, a song that comes on just when you needed clarity. Oh, strangers' words that mirror your private question. These are not accidents. They are echoes from the deeper field. The energy field is intelligent, responsive, and playful. And when you begin to engage with it intentionally, something changes. You feel less alone, more guided. You begin to dialogue with life itself. This isn't about interpreting every little event. It's about cultivating a stance of openness, of learning to say that felt like more than coincidence, and then sitting with that sense until insight emerges, not from the mind, but from a deeper knowing. McKenna believed that wonder was an essential nutrient, that mystery wasn't something to fear, but something to feed. Symbols and synchronicities are reminders that we live in a reality more enchanted and responsive than we've been taught to believe. At this stage of life, many begin to ask a different kind of question. Not, what can I do, but what truly matters now? The pace slows, but the hunger for meaning grows deeper. And with that shift comes the opportunity to stop chasing and start tuning. Not to control life, but to cohere with it. Terence McKenna didn't offer dogma. He offered a posture, one of curiosity, presence, and surrender to complexity. To him, the human being was not a machine or a soul locked in a body, but a frequency reader, a tuner, a conscious participant in an intelligent field. And to live in harmony with that field, we must refine how we perceive, how we respond, and ultimately, how we exist. So how do we live as the tuner? It begins with observation, learning to notice what lifts and what constricts. Who nourishes your energy and who depletes it? What thoughts spiral and which ones bring peace? Every moment is a frequency reading. And each small choice, to pause before reacting, to breathe before speaking, to stay when it's hard or leave when it's overdue, either clarifies or distorts your signal. Next comes intention, not in the shallow sense of manifesting a new car, but in the deeper sense of alignment. Asking, is my life congruent with what I value? Do my words match my energy? Am I leaking energy to outdated identities, unresolved pain, or chronic distractions? For many people 45 and older, the answer is complicated. You've lived enough life to have built patterns, and enough awareness to want to shift them. That's where the real work of tuning begins. Not in trying to fix yourself, but in choosing to resonate with what feels true now, not decades ago. The Masonic 33rd degree metaphor reminds us, wisdom isn't a destination. It's a return, a cycle, a refinement of perception through lived experience. It's not about controlling others, but mastering your own field. And in doing so, becoming someone whose presence alone changes the environment, not by force, but by frequency. McKenna's vision was always one of conscious participation, of waking up from the cultural trance and recognizing that reality is fluid, not fixed, that you are not here to merely endure life, but to shape it from the inside out, through awareness, choice, and energetic responsibility. You are the tuner. The field is already humming. The question is, are you ready to listen and live it in harmony?